Okay, so welcome everybody to the breakout session led by Get Staffed Up. It's called OI90, the formula to maximum productivity. Let me quickly introduce myself so that you know, like, who the heck am I listening to and why am I listening to this person? So my name is Brett Tremblay. I'm the co-founder of Get Staffed Up. We are the largest virtual staffing company for lawyers and law firms already in the United States, even though we're still less than 4 years old. But more importantly, or maybe not more importantly, but I should say also, I'm a lawyer and I have a law firm that is a 10 attorney firm. We've hit the Inc. 5000 twice. We have 30 people on staff ourselves. So I have some credibility, I would say, in terms of delegation. And where Get Staffed Up came from was a need to find really amazing, hardworking people, but layering in an offshore component so that the price, our cost didn't always keep up with our overhead, didn't keep up with the revenue growth. So Get Staffed Up was born a few years ago. Me and my co-founder are both attorneys, and we focus on helping lawyers delegate the way to freedom. So welcome to the session. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy my home office. I don't know if any of the other speakers had, beautiful backgrounds. We had that last time, but this time we are more casual, and I'll open up for questions. So I have some polls and there's Q&A. Please feel free to ask questions. But the first poll question is, how many one-on-one meetings do you have with your team per week? And I say you, so you can either answer on behalf of yourself as the law firm administrator if you are, or let's take like the CEO or the lead partner, or I guess the partners. Like, how many throughout the week? Just take one person and just try to see how many one-on-one meetings that you have with your team. So we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes so far. All right, so you guys can see the results. Most of the votes are on 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So anywhere between 1 and 4. And let's move on to the next poll question then, please. Or 5 or more, a lot of votes. So anyway, we're doing a lot of meetings, right? With our staff members, one-on-one meetings. All right, below that, oh good, we can vote, on more than one at a time. Nope, it went away. So how much time do you spend trying to schedule internal meetings, right? So you have all those meetings, but then, you get a request. Hey, I need to talk about this. I need to talk about this. Okay, let me find time on my calendar. Or if you have an assistant, that's good, but they're asking you and you're asking them and you're scheduling, coordinating, etc. How much time, I'm sure you've never tracked this before, but how much time do you think that you spend scheduling meetings? All right, the overwhelming majority says less than 30 minutes. We're starting to get more. I'm gonna bet that if you actually, we're all bad at judging time. And I bet that if you, because you're busy, right? And if you actually recorded how much time it took you to go back and forth, especially if you're doing an email, it's like, it's a lot of time. Just scheduling the meetings, drives me bonkers anyway. So we can move on to the next slide. And the point of these poll questions is we have figured out a way. We didn't even invent it, but we figured out a way to save you a lot of time on a lot of your inner office communication. And I love talking about this, especially the office hours. It's one of my favorite things because it's like that aha moment. Holy cow, why didn't I think of this before? Again, office hours is not something that we invented, but we brought it into the law firm business world, and like we're screaming this from the rooftops right now. So in the next 15 minutes, I'm just going to run through these slides. We don't need to spend 30 minutes on this. I can get through it all in 15 minutes. It's very straightforward. Hopefully some of you adopt what we're talking about today, and it helps change your law firm and saves you a ton of time. So office hours, the issues matrix, which is going to save you a ton of time, and then the weekly 90-minute team meeting. So let's move on to the next slide, and it should be about office hours. So office hours. If you remember in law school, your professor, you went to class 2 or 3 times a week, and then your professor posted open office hours, right? You went to office hours, and usually, depending on the teacher or the class, they were packed. You had this long line, and you just sat there and waited. And eventually it was your turn, and the professor was meeting with a student, answering questions, etc., and then move on, right? Next student, next student, next student. You can do the same thing in your law firm, and it doesn't matter if you're virtual, although it works really well when you're virtual, or if you're back to in office. But let's say virtual. What you do, like what I do, is on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. we have open office hours for Brett, right, the co-founder. So throughout the week, this takes place. Instead of meeting with people one-to-one, I always respond to people, office hours. Hey, Brett, I have a question, office hours. Like, this is happening on our chat system, because I don't look at my email very much, because email is where things go to die, and it's the biggest time suck for most professionals, especially lawyers. So I'm telling people to go to my office hours. We have a meeting, and we have to-dos from that meeting. Instead of using everyone's time to sit there and listen to me or one or two people discuss something, I say, let's discuss in office hours, right? So I open my Zoom at 1 p.m. My assistant announces to the whole team, get staffed up. We have 99 people on staff, internal. So that's a lot of people, right? Not every department needs me, but the ones that I oversee, they need me a lot of times, especially the directors. Same thing for you, right? Your attorneys may need you, maybe your intake, your admin, etc. Interruptions are the number one thing that's going to kill your productivity. Email, because you allow it to interrupt you, is still an interruption, but from third parties, from people within your office. If you're answering phones at any time, you're letting people interrupt you or knocking on your door, kills productivity. You can get rid of 90% of your headaches from interruptions by having office hours. So if they're virtual, you can even do virtual if you're back in office, right? Open up your Zoom, and when people click on that link, they will also go to Zoom, but they'll be in the waiting room. So you admit your first person, talk through your issue. Everyone else, because it's on screen, they're not sitting there waiting, wasting their time. They're doing their work. So what do? Next person comes in, right? Let them in, handle it. You need two people at the same time. You admit those two people at the same time, handle your issue, you move on. There is not a Tuesday or Thursday where I don't handle at least 10 issues and deal with about 8 to 15 people even. We just knock it out, boom, 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 and it saves me all the time from scheduling. And if you're having 4 or 5 meetings, right, that's another 2.5 hours probably, because you're not being as productive and you're having to move other things around when you're scheduling the meetings themselves. They're interrupting things on your calendar. So office hours, I hope for you, like it was for us, is this big aha moment, like, wow, I never thought about that before. I can spend an hour and deal with probably 80% of the issues in my business. So by the way, there is Q&A there. So if you see the Q&A, I will be monitoring that. Please feel free to pop in your questions. Let's move on to the next slide. So you're telling people, right, go to my office hours. It says avoid meetings, resolve issues efficiently, effectively, and save time. Save a lot of time. I'm telling you right now, 4 to 5 hours per week. But let's say emergencies happen. How do you define an emergency? How do you define when it's okay to interrupt you? If we go to the next slide, you can see we have something called an issues matrix. What is an issues matrix? An issues matrix is it's a list of 10. We have 10. You can adopt the whole thing or come up with your own. But it's criteria for when it's okay to interrupt you, either as the law firm administrator or you implement this for the department chairs, for the lead attorneys, etc. When is it okay to interrupt? Because again, if I'm trying to get my legal work done, interruptions is what kills people. So if we go on to the next slide, I can give you guys the example, right? What is the issue matrix? 10 questions your staff needs to ask themselves before interrupting you. And only if the answer is yes to any of these questions may a staff member interrupt you. If the answer is no to all of them, then they have to wait until office hours. But again, you could even do office hours 30 minutes every day, 4 days a week, 2 days a week, etc. It depends on you, your department, who you oversee. Again, every office is different. So you'll figure out the right amount of time for you. But our issues matrix, if we can move on to the next slide, has 10 questions that everyone needs to ask themselves before they interrupt. And if you're virtual, it's harder to interrupt. But you're getting maybe pinged or someone's requesting you to jump on a Zoom. Like you have to answer yes to one of these before you're allowed to interrupt me, and then of course moving forward you. So what will this influence a single purchase of $10,000 or more? It's a lot of money, right? If money over $10,000 can be flowing somewhere, I need to know before somebody makes a decision. Will this improve our systems, impact more than $10,000 of sales, or affect our reputation? So if we get a negative review, and everybody has to deal with those usually bogus, just maddening negative reviews, right? I don't need to know in the middle of a client meeting, in the middle of a phone call, in the middle of doing legal work. That can wait for me for the end of the day, or for office hours to talk through what needs to happen. It's not going to impact us so much that you're going to interrupt my day. Now, someone's about to walk out the door and that person is, a high-end client for the firm. There's an issue. We've got a consultation nobody can handle. It could be a big case. Then yeah, I want you to interrupt me because it could impact more than $10,000 or severely affects our reputation. Is it vital to ask you this question because I'm the only person that knows the answer? Okay, fine. Has the question already been directed, though, to all other staff members and gone unanswered? So you should have people below you that can handle questions so that you're only answering the really high-end questions. Is this feedback vital because it would shape the direction of the company? Well, direction of the company is a big issue. So we can move on to 6 through 10, please. 6, is the person involved a VIP, potential client, important colleague, an influencer, an industry leader? There are certain people who get the benefit of the doubt. There are certain clients that have enough clout that if you don't interrupt me, their ego is going to be shattered. Like, I'm going to go somewhere where I'm treated. Whenever I walk in, the person who owns the firm stops everything and comes and shakes my hand, right? Like, there are those types of clients that you do drop everything for. 7, does this involve significant spending of money? We already talked about the $10,000 limit. 8, is it a significant media opportunity? If somebody wants you on the news, I don't care what I'm doing, right? You're interrupting me because that is a fleeting opportunity. Someone else may jump at it. If like I was on the news during the coronavirus, I have a business law firm and they're talking about small businesses. They were looking for an attorney that does what I do to be on the news. If I hadn't have answered right away, maybe another attorney would have been able to capitalize on that. So that is like, don't care what I'm doing, interrupt me. Does this affect my calendar, travel, family, relationships? I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. Does this affect a project I'm currently focused on? Maybe you want to tighten that one up a little bit, such as a project that I'm currently focused on with a deadline of less than 7 days, or that I've designated as a big project that I need to know about, etc. So you can play with the issues matrix, but all you're doing is you're laying out the criteria for what your staff needs to know before they interrupt your time. If not, that's okay. 99% of things can wait until office hours. And that's when you handle these issues for the most part. All right, we can keep rolling through the slides here. I'll leave this up for a few seconds. You can use your phone to scan this and download a template. This is something our staff, Get Staffed Up, put together. It's again, you're just putting in the company, the department, the project name, and it's really helps you sort of manage projects so that you can just like periodically check in and make sure people are on task. So I think we can always send this out later as well, where you guys can pop in the booth tomorrow and ask us for this. But we can keep going on to the next slide. I believe I have about 5 minutes left. So we've talked about office hours. We talked about the issue matrix. And the last thing is the weekly 90-minute team meeting. So if we can go to the next slide. Every person, and if there's any of you that are your firm's using Traction, then this is very familiar for you. This is something that comes straight out of EOS or Traction. We can go to the next slide, please. And they will fundamentally change your firm. But first, we want to ask, how many people are on your team total? How many team members, not independent contractors, but how many attorneys, paralegals, staff, reception, all together? How many, just so we can kind of get an idea. 11, 12 votes out of 33. If you guys could vote for us. Looks like the majority, though, we're dealing with are more than 10, 66%. So, all right. So when you're less than 10, I mean, you can have one staff meeting per week with all of your staff, right? And then what you do is and we're going to walk you through it. It allows you to get communication, get everybody on the same page. The idea, we can go to the next question here, please, because we have, again, almost 70% or more than 10. And then the next slide is everyone needs to have a voice and an opportunity to say something. The amount of times, I wish I could see hands and say, hey, raise your hand if you've ever found out a problem in your law firm that you didn't realize existed and it had been going on for months. Like something simple, like a mouse wasn't working on a specific computer, or a browser, affected somebody's productivity, and just nobody came to you. If you don't give your team members an opportunity to bring up issues and then solve issues, you are missing out. I cannot imagine my life again before implementing these 90-minute meetings. So we'll go to the next slide and I'll run you through what we mean by this. We're gonna have a slight little delay here. How you run your meetings is how you run your business, your firm. Death by meetings, right? Nobody loves meetings, but these 90-minute meetings will absolutely change your life. Everybody will be engaged, and they can be a lot of fun. I don't know if we're stuck or not, but it still says how to run your meetings, and we want to get to the next slide.
So it's currently showing a typical meeting agenda.
Okay, it is. I'm just not seeing it. Let me refresh my screen. All right, I think I'm back. I was told earlier in our briefing to refresh if something happened. So thank you guys for waiting. We've been using Traction, Deanne says, for over a year. Traction is life-changing. This is exactly where it comes from. You look into Traction if you haven't already. And thank you guys so much for your comments in the chat. It's really helpful. Let me run through this, though, real quick for those that don't use Traction. 5 minutes is just a check-in, segue, everybody checks in. The next 5 minutes is you review your scorecard, your KPIs. If you don't have a scorecard yet, it's really easy. You really need one for each position, each department, but just keep it simple. Come up with the 5 to 10 major things that your law firm needs to know to make sure it's not going to run into a ditch every week, and review them with your team every week. It's so enlightening. It'll help you. And anything that's off track, you add it to the issues list. Next, you talk about your goals for the quarter. Anything that's off track, you add to your issues list. Then you talk about any client or employee headlines. Anything that's major, you add to the issues list. You're sensing a theme, right? The next 5 minutes, you talk about your to-dos from last week, which you got from your issues list. And anything that wasn't done, you add back to the issues list. Your team votes on the issues, and then you solve the issues by assigning to-dos. To-dos should be done within 7 to 14 days. The next meeting, the same thing. You run through the agenda, you get to your to-dos. So you're solving every week little and then bigger issues, things that used to basically just go unnoticed or unmentioned at your firm for a really long time, suddenly starts to happen more quickly, and you start to gain momentum. And again, Traction Tool software is very helpful. Deanne says it's absolutely amazing. Highly recommend it. So I think we have another slide or two, but bottom line is that if you implement 90-minute meetings so everyone has a voice, everyone can propose issues and bring them to the table. We don't have time for this slide, but it just talks about a way to keep time and run through your 90-minute meetings. and then you implement office hours and you protect your interruptions by having the issues matrix, you will save just gobs and gobs of time every week, time that you can put back into working on your business, growing the business, doing the legal work, whatever it is you need. I hope that some of you have had those aha moments. Some of you say, oh, office hours, they are life-changing. I'm telling you right now, you will go from being overwhelmed with all the requests, your email full, and I need to talk about this, I need to talk about this, I need to talk about this. Send them to your office hours. You will thank us another time if you ever see us. And that's all the time we have. In fact, I think we're a minute over. So thank you guys so much for being here and for listening. We had 32 people. Susan, hope we see you again. Thank you so much. I would like to invite everyone to join our Facebook or LinkedIn group, whichever you use the most, whichever platform. They're both called Delegate Your Way to Freedom. You can scan the QR code and then just ask to join. We just give out delegation tips. There's no sales that happens in those groups. It's just people, and mostly us, inviting you to our webinars in case there's any that interest you. We do one per month on another way to delegate or improve your business. And then we're posting a lot of content in there on how to continually hire better, screen better, deal with the major, unfortunately, the biggest asset in your business, which is your employees, but also the biggest headache, and how to do it better. Sometimes we talk about core values. Sometimes we talk about the screening process. Sometimes we talk about retention, building culture. We bring in experts on those webinars once per month. So a lot of good content there. You can find us at getstaffedup.com. We'd love to help you and your law firm delegate your way to freedom. Again, my name is Brett Tremblay, and it's really been a pleasure speaking with you guys today.